Okay, well, let's try it. Okay, can we do part 2? Let's find out. I'm not sure. Are we back? Looks like we have 0 drop frames so far. That's good. Okay, so unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to assume that we're good. So we've got to just do a couple more games, and then we got the final summary to wrap up this live stream. And then I'm going to have to edit it together in post for the main video, but that's okay. Yeah. What's up, Mark? Is the stream coming through clear? No lags and everything? I had to reset my router. I had to do a bunch of different things. So I think it might have been my VPN messing everything up. So I disconnected from my VPN. So yeah. Anyway, so this is the Omen 16. If you're just hopping into this live stream, this is part 2. We have been doing a big live stream, doing all of these different tasks for the Omen 16, all these different tests. We unboxed the laptop. We checked out the display, the speakers, the keyboard, the mouse. We took the bottom of the chassis off. We looked at the upgradability. We played a bunch of games. We did CPU tests, GPU tests, and we were in the last 2 games. And then we're going to do a final summary of everything we found out about this laptop. And so hopefully the stream is good now. Looks like it's showing still a few dropped frames. If we can't get the drop frames figured out, then I might just have to call the stream for the day. But as long as it's playing pretty dang smooth, then I'm going to keep going. But yeah, it looks like we're still dropping a few frames. It's showing that we're losing 2% of frames for some reason. I have no idea what's going on with the lag. I reset my router. I restarted my machine. My laptop itself, there's nothing running on it. And then I did a speed test on my laptop, and I'm getting like hundreds of megabits up and down. So it shouldn't be a bandwidth problem in theory. So it might be something wrong with YouTube. I'm not sure. Audio is desynced. Okay, well, let me try resyncing this camera's audio, and we'll see if that helps. Okay, so let me know if the audio is synced better now. It might not be. Looks like we're still dropping some frames here and there, so not sure what's going on. I'd really love to be able to finish this out if I can. Testing audio. Testing the audio. Oh. So Big Boy says better now. That's good. Well, let's see what Shadow of the Tomb Raider got in the benchmark. 75 FPS on average across all 3, even with ray tracing enabled, settings on ultra, DLSS on quality, no frame generation, 75 FPS, still going to be very playable in Shadow of the Tomb Raider at maximum settings. So I love to see that. Last game, Witcher 3. Yeah, it's showing that we are still dropping a few frames, but there's only so much you can do. And as long as it's generally pretty good, getting the information across, then I'll be happy. Either way, there will be an edited version where everything is put together. So there will be a full version that comes out eventually here. All right, so we're gonna go in our options, check our display settings. We're gonna go ray tracing to ultra. DLSS is on quality. Full screen 1080p frame generation is enabled. LSP says much better. Yeah, it's showing we have not dropped any frames in the last several minutes, so that's really good. I have no idea what's going on. I'm guessing it's a problem with my internet provider. If I was to guess, maybe something going on with their servers or something like that. Don't know. Okay, so here we are. Witcher 3. Everything's set to ultra. 66 FPS. Our 1% low has been phenomenal, by the way. Very little stuttering. Gotta love that. Okay, so here we are. Let's do it. So this is our benchmark for the Witcher 3 1080p ultra settings, frame generation enabled, ray tracing on ultra. $70 FPS. It's quite good. We are GPU bound, also very good. Love to see that. Witcher 3 being generally pretty an optimized game. We are hitting near our max VRAM limitations, but 70 FPS, 4441% low, extremely playable in the Witcher 3. I love to see that. That is awesome. Okay, so let's get down to the brass tacks of it all. It's time to do our final summary of everything that we have found out about this laptop. Okay, so I'm just gonna scooch over a little bit here. Scooch over a little bit. Okay, so value comparison at $1249. This thing's not very good. When it was on sale and I bought it for $899, I think that's a very good deal. We've got great thermals here. We've got a great gaming experience overall and a fairly portable package with a fairly high quality display, 324 nits brightness, over 1020:1 contrast ratio. Not super high color gamut on the display, so not as good for video editors, photoshoppers, all of that. The keyboard feels good. The trackpad's only plastic, so not as premium. The speakers were surprisingly good. The acoustics in fan modes were also very good. For speakers, I gave them a rating of 8.0, which is pretty good overall for a more budgety laptop. The ports on this are good, but not great. There's no SD card slot. There's only 4 USB-As. There's a network port. There's an HDMI 2.1, which is a high quality HDMI out. But the ports on this are more limited than what you typically get in a 16-inch laptop. I would expect 1 to 2 more ports on this, so a little bit deduction from there. Now, the fan noise itself was only like 44.5 decibels in quiet mode, and it still has pretty good performance. In balanced mode on auto, it was like 46 to 48 decibels, also still very quiet. And the speakers are loud enough to play great games, great gameplay. When you're put the speakers up to max, you're gonna hear the gameplay. The fans won't be very intrusive when in balanced mode on auto fans. Now, how is this laptop compared to the HP Omen 17 aside from performance, which is no questions? So the Omen 17 has a lot better ports. The Omen 17 had some more premium options like better quality displays. And I think the biggest thing about the Omen 17, obviously you can have much higher performance components, obviously. So like you can get a 4080 or 4090 in that machine. This version of the Omen 16, you can't do that. And that said, I mean, in terms of feel and aesthetic and premiumness, I feel like they're about in the same tier of category in terms of premium feel. And in that sense, I think this is much better than the competition. The build, the design of the chassis itself feels like a fairly nice-ish laptop. Now it's all plastic, so it's nothing special for build quality, but for rigidity, I think the Omen 16 feels pretty dang rigid, except for the right wrist rest. When we did the flex test, the right wrist rest was a bit more bendy. And in general, though, I think the design itself, like that's probably the big thing that stands out to me about the Omen 16. Like I really like this design. It comes across as a more premium laptop than it actually is. Like the price tag would indicate at $899. And I like the layout of the actual keyboard itself. And the backlight is very bright and very vibrant. Obviously, it's only one color, though, at least in this mode. So I think that the build and design of it is a little bit higher quality than what you would normally come to expect for $899. That said, there are some really good deals out there right now on some laptops. And I talked about these deals in detail in earlier in the live stream, the part 1 version of this live stream. Let me try to pull up the... Here it is. Okay, so this laptop list has all kinds of details, and right now the Omen 16, the version I bought here, is currently $1249. Not a good deal. Don't recommend it at all at that price point. But if it's on sale again for $900, yeah, we're $40, $50. That's a pretty good deal, and I think it'd be worth buying at that point. But right now, the Lenovo Lock, the Acer Nitro 5, I especially like the Lenovo Lock at this price point. The MSI Pulse 15, well, the Asus Tough F15. If you can spend $1149, this thing will get you a high-powered 4070. And this is definitely probably one of my top recommended right now. The Pulse 15, this Acer Nitro 5 with the 3070 Ti and the Pulse 15 have the two really high-quality displays with QHD 165 Hz, 100% DCI-P3 color gamut. So those are the two top picks right now if you're after a high-quality display option. But both of those laptops are very plasticky builds. So those are not super premium. These are like the best budgets in terms of performance meets high-quality display. So to wrap all of this up, in actual gameplay, Apex Legends was great. We got really high FPS. The display itself is going to be good for esports, but in Warzone 2, we just didn't have enough cores and enough performance, CPU performance, to push higher frame rate gaming. So we're only getting about 60 FPS, still very good gameplay, but it's just not as good as what you ideally want when you're buying a brand new laptop. So if you're after like Warzone 2, that was probably the weakest game out of all the games we tested in terms of esports compatibility. Very high frames in most esports are going to be achievable on this Omen 16. Valorant, League of Legends, CSGO, Apex Legends, Fortnite, all of those will be pushing higher than 144 FPS with the right settings set. Our AAA games played great. We had great FPS and temperatures in basically everything. God of War was phenomenal. Cyberpunk 2077 was phenomenal. Hogwarts was pretty dang good, though we did have to change textures to low. Dead Space was great. And surprisingly, the temperatures in Dead Space were very good. So you'll definitely want to check those out. It was like barely 80 degrees, oftentimes under 80 degrees with the CPU. Obviously, it makes sense because it's a lower power i5 CPU, but it still put out more than 60 FPS. It was like 73 FPS, I think, in our test. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 75 FPS. Dying Light 2 was 93 FPS. Witcher 3 was like 70, I think, approximately FPS. Very good performance. If you're after 1080p gaming, this Omen 16 is going to provide a great 1080p gaming experience that's going to be tough to, it's not going to be tough to beat. There's a lot of laptops out there that are very competitive with this. The big thing where this thing could be beat by a number of other laptops is going to be display quality, and then just number of cores in the CPU. in particular is an area of weakness on this Omen 16. Only 4 performance cores and 4 E cores is a big downside, because a lot of the newer games that are going to come out, I think, are going to want to be able to use more than 4 cores for performance cores. And of course, for multi-core rendering, things like video editing, they're going to obviously be able to use lots of cores as well. So depending on what applications you use, this may not be the ideal or best budget option around this price point. Now, the Acer Nitro 5 is a little bit better on the CPU front. This guy, it's got the i5-12500H, which has a few more cores attached to it, which boosts the Cinebench R23 score up by a few thousand. And then depending on which other budget option you go with, like this Acer Nitro 5 right here, again, there's links in the description to the sheet where you can find links to all of these laptops that I'm talking about. The Ryzen 7 6800H with a RTX 3070 Ti with a high quality display with 1 terabyte SSD, only $969. This is, if I had $1,000, this is a laptop I would be buying, most likely. And then if I wanted to spend a little bit more than $1,000, I'd probably go this route on the Asus TUF F15 RTX 4070 for $1149. Whew, that is juicy. I mean, that is very good. So yeah, like this is a really good value. 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, an i7-12700H, so you get more cores, and you get the full HD 144 hertz. It's supposed to be 250 nits. We're not sure. We need to do tests on this to see how many nits brightness is, because this Omen 16 surprised us, 324 nits. That was a lot higher than the rated 250 nits brightness. So it makes me a little dubious about some of these claims only being 250 nits. Sometimes it really is only 250 nits, or maybe only 220 nits, like some of the MSI laptops out there. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the Omen 16. Is it worth it at $899? Yes, it is absolutely worth it at $899, but it does have some weaknesses, primarily the display's color gamut. And number 2, the number of cores that it has is just not as competitive with some of the other laptops out there. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at chat real quick, and we're going to go from there. So, how is this laptop? It's here. Okay, all right. How do these Omens stack up against Legions? In general, I think the Legions are a little bit higher premium build quality, and I think that's the main advantage to going to the Legion route. But the Legions, I think, are a little bit more expensive on average. Especially if you get both on a sale, they can be very competitive, but it depends. But in general, I think the Omens are just a little bit cheaper, a little bit more budget-friendly for the specs you get. But it just depends. But in general, I would say the Legions are slightly on the more premium build, because usually they have more metal, usually have a little bit more rigid chassis, and I think a little better hinge. Okay. John Paul Ginley says, I'm planning on building a PC in November, and someone recommended the AMD 7600X CPU with a 4070 Ti GPU combo. For me, I'll be using it to stream on Twitch and record for YouTube. What would you recommend? Well, it depends on what you're looking to do. You're looking to stream on Twitch and record for YouTube. Well, you definitely want to have a good CPU in that system. So you're looking at multiple cores. And you definitely want a good GPU too. So if you go with a laptop, I would recommend going with an RTX 4080. If you're going to go, looks like your budget must be at least a couple $1,000s. So you could go with something like the Legion Pro 7i with an RTX 4080 and the i9 13900HX. Lots of cores in that CPU, should be great for streaming and video editing. If you're talking about you only want to build a desktop, then the specs you listed are probably pretty decent for a CPU GPU combo. But yeah, if you can swing it, going to the 4090 desktop GPU would be a big advantage for future proofing. A 4080 is also very good. A 4070 Ti is pretty good as well. I believe it has, I'm not sure all the differences exactly between those off the top of my head, but I think the 4070 Ti might have reduced VRAM comparatively speaking. Okay. Baka says, Asus, I think quality down the bin, bad BIOS update running a lot of customer devices. Interesting. I have not had any issues with updating my BIOS on any Asus device so far. King Dragon says, looks like you're going to need to re-upload part 1 because it's only 15 seconds for some reason. Thanks, King Dragon. I will look into it. I'm going to get things figured out and fixed for the main video upload edit. We'll have everything synced together in one video. So if you're not sure where to go, you can check the main video tab in a few days, and we should have all of that put together. So I think this is a good summary for the Omen 16. I know a lot of people are just hopping onto the stream because we had to restart it, but I would encourage you to check out the original live stream. It says it's 3 hours and 36 minutes. It should, yeah, well, it says it's only 14 seconds long. I don't know. We'll get it figured out and we'll get it uploaded. Sorry about all the streaming problems. I can't control it. It's out of my hands. It's something to do with the internet, I believe. Where even now we're still dropping some frames. So super weird. Streaming problems today. Haven't had any problems for months, and then suddenly today we had some problems. So hopefully this doesn't become a consistent thing. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Brandon out.